ActiveCampaign Automation is what we're going to cover in this ActiveCampaign tutorial. I'm going to make some assumptions, namely you've already set up your ActiveCampaign account. You know how to create a web form that will add somebody to a list. Now we're going to just dive right into automations and what they can do for you. So start by clicking on Automations. And if you haven't created anything before, you'll get a message that looks like this. So go ahead and click on Create a New Automation. Now, ActiveCampaign gives you access to a number of already done automations. For our purposes, we're not going to do that, but you do have a wide range of options to choose from to at least get started. But we're going to show you some things that might not show up in some of these recipes. And we're going to use what I call best practices. So let's just simply start from scratch. Click there, click on Continue. And the first thing you'll be prompted is, how is your contact going to enter this automation? There's a number of different ways that are default. Subscribes, unsubscribes, submits a form, open reads an email, clicks a link in an email, etc. Some of these require that you've got, for instance, web tracking set up. So if they visit a certain page or an event is recorded, so you need to already have something set up. So you can also not have a trigger for an automation. So in other words, the only way to really get into that automation is if another automation puts them in there or you manually add them. So for our purposes, let's just start with do not have a trigger for your automation. So what's the first thing you want to do? Typically, you're going to want to send them an email. It might be something different. You might want to adjust a score or something like that. But let's start with sending an email. And I'm going to go ahead and just click here. Click on Send an Email. You'll need to create one if you haven't already. And you want to give it a name. And this will be hidden. Nobody's going to see this. And if it's multiple emails, you might use a numbering system. So as soon as you say create one, it's going to throw you back to this template page. So you can either build from scratch, you can pick a template that's readily available that they provide, or what I typically do is use something I've already created. My emails tend to be just text with an image, maybe some links, and that's about it. So I'm going to go ahead and select one that I've previously used. You can preview it if you want, or simply just click on Use Design. At this point, you need to provide a subject, and I'm just going to put in test. Click on Continue, and it'll walk you through. You can modify the content, and I'm just going to remove this image here. Don't need it. And I'll remove this text block here. And this is all I'm going to say. I'm just going to say hello, hi. And I'm going to use the personalization capability. Click here, and what do you want to put in? I want to put in their first name. Put a comma. Thanks for joining, Dave. And that's it. Now, I could add, let's say, please click here. And I'm going to create a link. I'm going to go to here. Now, one thing that is interesting here is you can add an action that occurs when that link is clicked. You can add remove tags, put them on a list, add them to an automation or in that automation. These are powerful options within the automations to do something based on their behavior. I'm actually not going to do anything. I'm just going to say okay. Yeah, let's cancel that guy. So I've got a very basic email, uses personalization, it's got a link that they can click. I could track their behavior and do something. I'm not going to for this setup. Go ahead and save, and actually probably want to go to next, but we just did go to save and exit, so let's see what happens. I can readily go back in here and I can edit that, and I'll go to the next step this time. And here's the one thing, I am using a free account here. I would need to change this email address to my own. So I can't really send this until I made that change. But what's nice here is it tells you what the subject is, who it's from, the name of it. You've got to select an address associated with it. You can have automations that are triggered based on opening, link tracking, replies. You can install Google Analytics. It's a good idea at the very least to have open read tracking, even if it isn't 100% accurate. And then also link tracking too. You've got a chance to do a preview of what the email looks like in the desktop, and I think this one you might need to pay for. So I'm not going to do that, but I can give you a preview. Now I'm going to go ahead and just save and exit, even though I've got this error message, so I can't use it yet. Now, next thing you can do is really up to you. Typically, if you're setting up an autoresponder, it's going to be, let's wait a certain amount of time, send another email. But let's take advantage of some powerful automation that ActiveCampaign does. So for instance, if they do something, I want to send them or do something different. So let's put a little wait time in here. Let's say wait for a day. So I'm going to go into here, conditions and workflow, wait for a specified amount of time, wait for 1 day. Then I'm going to go ahead and check. And I'm going to use this if-else condition. So now I need to check the condition that I want, which is, I'm going to do actions, I believe. Let's take a look. Has clicked on a link. So in any campaign, no. In this campaign, which I believe is this one, and it's this link. I could say any link. So if they've done something, if they've clicked a link, let's do something like apply a tag. Now, I already showed you that we could have done this inside the email. And the reason I'm doing it out here is so that it's visual and I know and I can remember that this has happened. So now what I'm going to do is I'll apply a tag. So I'm going to go to contacts, add a tag. And heck, I don't even know what I have for tags in this account. Sure, let's do family. Somebody clicks that, they're going to get the tag that's called family applied. Now, if they don't, I don't want them to get that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge this path back here at this point. So let's send another email. Let's actually send the same email just so we don't have to create another one. So I'm going to send email 1 again. Normally it'd be email 2. And I'm going to merge back in the people that didn't get tagged. So we had a condition that checked. It said, if you click the example.com link, apply this tag. Otherwise, don't. But then send email 1 again. So that's kind of one of the nice, powerful features of ActiveCampaign. Now, let's do this. Actually, you know what? Just for fun, let's change this. And instead of has clicked on a link, let's do has opened the email. Has opened email 1, which is what we just sent a day ago. So if they've done that, let's give them a tag that says their family, and then we're going to send email 1 again. Now, here's one of the nice things that you can do. So this if-else logic can get complicated because you can kind of pile them up on top of each other. An alternative is to use goals. So if I put this in here, I'm going to say it has clicked a link, clicked link, and then I need to do this, click to add a goal, and it looks a lot like that if-then condition. So let's do actions, and this time has clicked on a link. And no, we don't want it to be any link, we want it to be this specific link. So what this means when there's a goal there, and I'm just going to leave it where it says, and when the goal is below contact's position versus anywhere else, just continue anyway. So in other words, I don't want that to gate any actions from happening. Now, what this means is, if somebody opens their email, they're going and clicks the link, they're going to get pulled all the way down here without going through this if-then logic. I know this isn't really a practical example, but this gives you a good idea of what you can do. So for instance, if they've done that, let's say if they've clicked again, let's just check to see if they've clicked. So again, back to an else statement. If they've clicked a link in this email, again, let's do something. That's actually a good idea. That's a good reminder. So I'm going to put a little wait of 5 minutes. And 5 minutes is the minimum amount of time that you are required to wait before you go to a next step. So that's a smart idea right there, because you don't want to have them come rushing through here. And if the ActiveCampaign system isn't synced up, it's possible they'll go through here with the wrong logic condition. So it's a good idea every time that you've got something like a goal and you're going to another condition, if then, you put a wait in between. So if they've clicked a link, let's do something else. Let's add another tag. And I am just going to throw a random profile Wistia tag in there. And again, let's merge it back, and actually let's end this automation at this point. It's kind of a goofy automation. It doesn't really do anything super practical. However, just want to show you what the functionality is that's available for you. So what I'll do is I'll go through all the options real quickly so you can see what they are. And I can just click on any of these to show you. But normally I'd make a name change here, and I would make this active to get it to go in. So let's just show you what's available. So sending options, there's an email you can send. You can send a current email, or you can create a new one. You can send an SMS message if you have the Plus or Enterprise plan if you want. There are alternative ways to accomplish that using webhooks. You can notify somebody, either yourself or somebody on your team, and you can include information about that contact in the email. And that's good if you're really interested in following up with someone if they've done something in other words, if they've opened the email and you want to reach out to them in a short amount of time. You can send a site message, but again, this site doesn't have that capability. So those are your sending options. Conditions and workflows. You can wait for either a certain amount of time, and it can be minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, or years. The minimum is 5 minutes. You can wait until or for, typically I use for 1 day or for 20 minutes or whatever. The other alternatives is you can wait till specific conditions are met. And what do you mean by that? Here we go. Until something about this person is what you want. Contactees. And a lot of it doesn't make sense. So if their email address is this, wait until their email address is this. That doesn't make sense, because either they've already got it and it's very unlikely you're going to change it. So not really a lot here, unless tags is typically a good one. So once a tag gets applied, then move them along. So in other words, that would imply that there's another automation running somewhere that is going to tag them. So once that tag has been applied, do whatever it is. So you can add another condition. So I can do and, or. So if I do or, it's like if this exists or this exists, then, and let's just say actions. Let's say has been sent, any campaign. Doesn't make a lot of sense. You can also then kind of combine that with another and condition. So these two, one of these two, and, or, and something else. So there's a lot of complexity you can come up with, though I would not necessarily encourage that. But typically the conditions editor are going to be something about the contact, i.e. tag or tags. Actions, did they do something? Did they click on a link? Did they open or not open? Have they been sent? Has they forwarded or not forwarded, replied? Are they on a list, not on a list? That type of stuff. Geography would mean if they're in a certain country, city, state, and it can get down to the detail. I would be a little bit careful with this one, because if somebody is in a different place and they open up an email on their phone say they're in a different country than where they actually live, their IP address is going to get recorded to that location, so it might be off. You might not want to do something based on that. So I'd be a little leery of using that one. And site and event data typically involves setting up tracking and event data prior to using ActiveCampaign. So you've got to have that enabled on your site so that you can take advantage of it. Did they visit? Have they not visited? That type of stuff. You can keep track of total page visits, and then these events are something that I added custom to this account. So you can do, for instance, total page visits is not, greater than, or less than, those type of things. Deals. Now this is another feature of ActiveCampaign, so you can basically take it into account what their deal status is, you know, if they're in a certain stage, what's the value. Date and time's a good one. So oftentimes you want to wait until the contact's certain time in their time zone occurred. So you can say, okay, let's wait until, let's do current day. Let's go back and do the current time of a contact's time zone. So let's do current day of the week for the contact is Friday. And let's do an and current time for the contact, current day, year, time in the contact's time zone is 8 a.m. You know what? I'm going to delete this. And I do want to delete this guy, but I've already got this. So basically I'm saying wait until Friday and then wait till it's 8 a.m. in the contact's time zone. So there's a lot of power in this conditional option. And again, time limit, which is kind of smart. So you don't want to get people stuck into a condition that they're never possibly going to meet. So typically I set it up for a certain amount of time, maybe give it a day, a week, or something like that so they can move on. So I might say up to 1 day. But because I put in that weekly, it's a Friday 8 a.m., I would actually make it 7 days. So that's a lot what you can do with conditionals. Let me just throw in what's next. You can split traffic. Do you want to do an even split? Never. When should it conclude? Never. Just keep splitting it. Or do you want to have a certain number of have been through the split or the date? Very powerful feature. And typically you're going to send people down 2 different paths, and maybe you're going to send one a different email than the other. That would be a typical reason to split traffic like this. Or you can do a conditional split. You know, has this happened or has this occurred? And the result would be, the biggie here is that after the split conditions have been met, they all go to what's called path B. So eventually all your contacts are going down in one path. Go to, it's a nice little jump function, which I've already shown you. So you apply it and then you drag the arrow to where you want that person to go. Goal, super powerful. Give it a name, give it the conditions, the criteria, and when the goal is either below or anywhere, what do you want to do? Typically I leave it at below contact's position and continue anyway. In other words, it never stops somebody from continuing through an automation. You can start another automation from within an automation, and you can also stop this current automation, or you can stop another automation outside of there. And then you can post information to a webhook. Typically, you're going to want to do that after some conditions are met. So for instance, I might say if they actually clicked a link, let's post their information to a webhook. Now, this is going to require some programming on your side or on your team's side or a developer working for you to do something with that. An example would be posting information to Zapier and then having it do something for you. Again, it's a powerful feature to basically extend what ActiveCampaign does by default. What else is there? So they were sending conditions in workflow contacts. And you can do some basic actions here. Add them, subscribe them to a list, unsubscribe them, update contact. What do you want to update? You can do add the tag, remove the tag, add a note, adjust their score if you have this capability. And I think this is, you got to have a different plan for this trigger a conversion. So in other words, you can kind of keep track of the value of your clients. And then last on here is the CRM, the deal type stuff. You can update, add a deal, and then move them along. So there's definitely a lot of things you can do in there with just simply these actions here. And as I pointed out, for instance, the webhook capability basically allows you to extend the automations that you can use inside ActiveCampaign significantly by sending their information to the outside world. So if you want to add somebody to a membership area, you can pass along their email, first name, last word, and maybe have a custom field called password. Add them to your membership and then bring them back in, or continue with the automation and send them the email with the URL and their login details. A lot of things you can do in there. So that's kind of the coverage of setting up automations inside ActiveCampaign. If you have any questions, just let me know. Thanks.